You're trying to make sure that it is just muscle you're gaining, whether you're on a lean bulk, a dirty bulk, or whatever you want to call your type of bulk that you're doing. I get it could be really frustrating to get 8 months in and to realize that you gained a bunch of fat and very little muscle, especially after you maybe have cut already, to get down and expose the muscle and realize, well, wait, this is it? Or you're just trying your hardest. I am someone that when I was in high school, I was 121 pounds, 115 pounds, I think, actually, until my very senior year. And then I got to 121 and I had to bulk up. So I get everything you're going through and really wanting to make sure that you maximize this time so that you don't give up. Maybe you tried bulking before and it just didn't work out. So I'm here to help you out. I'm gonna give you 3 tips on how you can make sure that you're actually gaining muscle and you're not gaining water, you're not gaining fat, or anything else it might be. Before we begin, my name is McKinney Thomas. I'm the founder of The Hive. I've been in the industry for a decade now as an exercise physiologist and fitness coach. I've trained NFL, I've trained MLB, I've trained other professional athletes, but I've also trained the average Joe. I've trained people just like you who just work normal jobs, maybe in college, maybe you have a kid now, right? A lot of my clients happen to be men aged 27 to about 35, 36, and I've trained them to help them gain weight, mainly muscle, and to lose fat. So that's what we're going to discover in this video. Like I said, 3 tips. But before we get into those 3 tips, I just want to talk about some things that people aren't necessarily talking about. And that's this right here. So it's not just this. It's going to be any food. But right here we have whey protein vanilla ice cream by Generation 1 by Gen 1. This is really good. I actually like it. If you mix it in coffee, it tastes like a maple coffee. So if you like maple coffee or salted maple, you can add a little bit of salt in there. And then we have this creatine from Walmart, creatine monohydrate. Now, before I begin, I also did a video on what supplements to take, and these supplements should help you gain muscle, lose fat, all of that, increase performance, and what supplements you should spend money on, what supplements you should avoid. So go check that video out. I'll post it in the link below, and I'll link it right here. So make sure you click that wherever I post it. This video is not about the supplements. The reason I wanted to bring the supplements up is because creatine, sodium, and carbs will help you store water weight. So when you're trying to increase your muscle mass, you might be taking creatine, you might be consuming more sodium because let's say you're consuming more chicken, or you're taking protein. And I know protein doesn't necessarily increase the water you're retaining, but if you all know, you want to have a 3 or 4 to 1 carb to protein ratio after your workout. So this protein right here, I believe, is 25 grams protein per serving. So that means if you're having that after your workout, you want to have 100 grams of carbs with that as well to facilitate the muscle building. Now, if you didn't know, carbs in its most basic form is going to be glucose and fructose. Your body stores glucose. Your body stores glycogen in its muscle to make sure you have that quick energy so that your muscle can get quick energy. You store that extra energy in your muscle through glycogen. Every gram of glycogen that's stored in your muscle, 3 to 4 grams of water. Meaning for every gram here, 4 grams. So let's say in theory you store a pound glycogen in your muscles. It means you have 4 pounds of water in addition to that. So for every 5 pounds you gain, 4 of that is water, 1 pound is glycogen. So just think about that in theory. Now, we don't have unlimited glycogen stores. I'm not sure how much it is based on your gender, your weight, your height, any diseases, illnesses is, but that's something to be mindful. This is also why people that are trying to lose fat and lose weight, when they get on keto, they lose a lot of weight that first month or 2, and they're so happy, but they don't realize a lot of that is water weight. It's the bloating water, but it's also the water from their muscle. This is the same water that makes you have that pump. After you go to the gym, your muscles feel really big because you got the blood going to the muscles, you got the water going in. This is also the same water that when someone's on a dirty bulk or a bodybuilder that's in the bulky season, they look really, really big. And sometimes they can look slightly smaller when they go on the cut. Even though during their cut, they're not really shedding a ton of fat. They're shedding fat and water. And that's one reason why. So just think about it. When bodybuilders get into their cut phase, they cut down on carbs, they cut down on sodium until 1 or 2 days before their show. And then they increase that to bring up the vascularity in their muscles and make sure they look big. So when you're doing this, you want to really make sure that you're paying attention to your carb, your creatine, and your sodium intake up until limit. Now, those things will actually bring performance and bring muscle growth. So I wouldn't say cut those out, but you just want to be wary that the cost also comes with storing water in your body and your muscle as well. So just be mindful of that. So check your sodium, check your carbs, make sure you're not gaining too much water while you're going through this. Now let's just jump into it. What are the 3 things that I see really affect? Oh, also, if you want a link to some creatine that's very similar, that's super cheap, or some of this protein, I'll link my Amazon link down below, and you can go purchase that for the low as well. Now let's get to it. The 3 things that I see can really help you. The first one is going to be simple. It's going to be a scale, a tape measure, or body fat percentage reading. This can be some type of electrical impedance that's handheld. It could be on the scale, you know, the scales that have the little metal foot placements, in-body test, DEXA scan, a hydrostatic or water weight test. You just want to make sure it's consistent. With the scale, with the tape measure, you want to make sure it's the same tape measure. You want to make sure it's the same person doing your reading as well. When you're doing the impedance test or any of the metal things that you hold on to or step on, you want to make sure you do it at the same time of day. You want to make sure you do it after having the same type of meal. So if you're doing it after breakfast, you always do it after breakfast. You don't do it after breakfast and then compare it to not eating breakfast, or compare it to at the end of the day after you had 3, 4, 5 meals already. You want to keep it consistency, because there is a little bit of leeway and flexibility in the accuracy of these, but as long as you measure the same way, the accuracy, even if there's a 2 or 3% variance, that 2 or 3% variance is constant, so you can make sure you're checking your body fat readings to see if they're changing. So even if the 9% isn't accurate, if it's 9% inaccurate all the time and you see a 2% change in that, you know you changed 2%. So just be mindful of that. When it comes to the scale doesn't necessarily measure your body fat percentage. And the reason why body fat percentage is something you want to measure is because it'll let you know if you're gaining muscle. The more muscle you gain, the lower your body fat percentage will be. The more body fat you lose, the lower your body fat percentage will be. But obviously, while you're on this bulk and you're in a calorie surplus, lower body fat will mean that you're gaining muscle during the way. So with the scale, you want to use visual cues. So whether you appear bigger to yourself, to other people, or even the fact that the scale is staying the same, even though you're in a calorie surplus, you know that you're gaining more muscle. So if you're using the scale, you can use visual cues so you can see the scale is staying the same, maybe it's slightly going down, even though it shouldn't go down and shouldn't go the same. If you feel bigger, then that's a reason to know that you're actually gaining weight. If the weight in the scale is going up and you know you're staying on top of the other 2 things, even your diet, you know you're actually gaining muscle. Something I also forgot to mention when it came to the supplements and the food is you want to be gaining 0.5 to 1 pound of muscle or weight every single week. So that means 2 to 4 pounds a month. This is very hard. Think about it. When it comes to fat loss, we say 1 to 2 pounds per week. That means 4 to 8 pounds lost. If someone is severely overweight or obese, then it might be 5. So that could be 20 pounds in a month. But just comparing the baselines of what we recommend, 4 to 8 pounds versus 2 to 4 pounds. That means it's 2 times harder to build muscle and to build weight. Obviously, you can do a dirty bulk and you can be eating 5,000 calorie surplus every single day, but you're going to gain a lot of fat. You're going to gain a lot of water. That is not what you want to do. So when it comes to this more cleaner type of bulk, you need to know that if you're trying to gain 10 pounds, it's going to take 15 to 20 weeks. Ideally, that 15, 20 weeks. I wouldn't go to 10 pounds, so 1 pound a week. I would go half a pound or maybe 0.75 pounds. So just know it's going to take a lot longer. The longer you take to gain the weight, the more of a chance that you have that is going to be mainly muscle, like 80% muscle, I should say. If you rush your weight gain, so you try to do 4 pounds a week, you try to do 3 pounds a week, 2 pounds a week, there's a greater chance that it's going to be fat. So just make sure you take the slow approach so that you have the long game, because what could be bad is at the end of your 8 weeks, the end of your 1 year journey, now you have 20, 30 pounds to cut, or you have to cut a bunch of water weight. And I don't know about you, if you've ever cut water. I cut water once for wrestling senior year, and that was the worst I felt during my tournament. The next day, I think I only had to lose like 4 pounds, but I was miserable. And I'm looking at it like, how are these 160, 170 pound people losing 10 pounds? Like, I only had to lose 3, and they're losing 10 pounds overnight. Like, how are you doing this? How are you not cramping up like I am right now? I had to stuff down Uncrustables and bananas just to make sure I stop cramping, Gatorades, and now I wouldn't recommend Gatorades. I know other tools and stuff, but back then I didn't. But yeah, it was miserable. But then even then, if you're someone that doesn't really like tracking your food, as in minimizing your calories, now at the end of your bulk, you have to cut. That is going to be very, very miserable for you, especially when you've just been increasing your calories day after day, week after week. So let's be mindful of that. The second tip I want to talk about is just your performance will increase with the more muscle you have in your body. Just look at sprinters versus long distance runners. Look at cyclists. Their legs are usually thick. Their glutes are usually thick. They are beefier. They are more bulk. They're more muscular. That is because the more muscle you have in your legs, the more power you produce. Look at powerlifters. A lot of powerlifters are really, really big. A lot of strong men are really, really big. Bodybuilders are big too. And bodybuilders are a lot bigger than like physique models or physique competitors. One, because they're eating more, but two, because the amount of weights that they're doing. Most of the time, the physique people are trying to shrink and get into the correct body fat percentage that they want, whereas bodybuilders, they're having to grow to get to that size. So that's something to think about, is that when you are actually increasing your muscle mass, your performance is going to increase. You might get stronger, you might feel more powerful, you might be more explosive. Just know that the more muscle fiber, the more muscle you have in your body, the better your performance is. Now, that doesn't mean that if someone is bigger than someone else, they're going to be automatically stronger, more powerful, more explosive, right? Me being someone that's always been under 160 pounds, but being in the 1,000-pound club, I know that that's not the case. I'm able to lift more than 95% of the people out there. And most people, I would say 50%, 60% of people are bigger than me, but I'm able to outlift them. So it's not always about the size or how much muscle you have on your body, but that is one indicator. Even if you're not looking at a scale, looking at body fat percentage reading, looking at anything of that nature, if you are feeling like you can lift more, weights are getting lighter, you're more explosive, you're quicker, you're able to jump further, you're able to jump higher, or you're able to do higher clap push-up, know that you're gaining muscle, because that is one reason or one symptom why the muscle is there, is for performance. That's just the difference between muscle and fat. Like, fat is there for energy supply, especially if you're a diseased individual, you have injuries or something like that. Like, usually fat is there to keep you alive. If someone got stranded on an island, you had a fat person, a skinny person, and there was no hunting sources around, the fat person will probably survive longer because they have more energy sources in their body. The more muscular person will survive longer if it's a place where they can hunt. They have to be physically active, they have to outrun something because they're being hunted. But ultimately, that's one reason why your body stores fat, is to give you energy in times of need. That's also why it's so much easier to burn muscle, because your body's like, hey, I need to preserve and lower my metabolism, let's get rid of this muscle. At that time, your body's thinking life or death, so your body is thinking life in the form of getting rid of muscle so that you have to eat less and consume less, and so you can either store more fat or you can either use the fat for energy. Muscle takes more energy from you, so your body doesn't like it for the most part. That's just one of the reasons why it's just way easier to store fat, is because your body is lazy and your body is also smart and wants to protect itself, whereas muscle is harder because it actually takes more of your body to keep muscle alive. That's why even after being out of the gym for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you feel like you shrunk, because your body is like, oh no, like, we need to get rid of this. We're not using it anymore. This is burning too much food from our body. It's depleting our sources of energy. It's depleting our glycogen stores. It's depleting our fat stores. Nope, let's get rid of that and let's store this fat. The third thing is going to be tying in with that scale. It's going to be definition. If you feel that you're more defined, your abs are coming out, your muscles are a little more bulgier, your shirts are filling out, your clothes are feeling smaller, tighter, that is going to be a good indication. Even if you can't step on the scale, if you feel like you're filling stuff out more, or maybe you look more ripped, more defined, that is going to be easy tell sign that you're gaining more muscle than fat. Now, if you feel like, hey, my gut is growing, or my clothes are fitting tighter, but I don't look defined, I just look flabbier, or I just look bigger, maybe like a average person that works out at the gym. Like, we all know those average people that work out at the gym all the time, yet they look a little bit bigger, but when they take their clothes off at the beach, they look out of shape, kind of thing. Like, that's going to be a tell sign that you gain a lot of fat with that muscle. If your shirts are feeling more tighter, but then you also feel like, hey, I have more definition, I can see more of those peaks in my bicep, my abs are there, my stomach is still flat, it hasn't grown, that's going to be a good sign that you are actually gaining muscle. You compare this with other body fat stuff, your scale. So like I said, if you make sure that you're only gaining 0.5 to 0.75 pounds of weight a week, you're going to make sure that 80%, I don't know if that's actually true or not, I'm just saying 80%, because I feel like that's the number that seems right for me. That is how you're going to make sure. Make sure you're not gaining a ton of weight every single week. If you need help with figuring out what training style to do, what exercises to do, what your split should look like, download my free Excel PDF down below. It'll have a 1-month training program for you. You can do that. You can change the numbers into what your split is as well. And now if you want to make sure, hey, I'm plateauing or I'm regressing, I'm getting injured, or hey, I just don't know what to do. I've done this before, it failed, I'm really ready to make steps to make it happen, you can sign up for one-on-one coaching. My application link will be down below. If you don't trust me yet and you want to watch some more of my videos, go watch my muscle building video here or here, whichever way I'll place it next. But it's basically going to tell you how to do some injury-free muscle building, give you some tips around that. And like always, feel free to reach out to me on YouTube, comment below. If you want to DM me personally, you have to go to my Instagram. That'll be linked down in the description below. Let me know your comments, your thoughts. If you really like this video or you want more information, comment that below as well. Give it a like, a subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.